topic that goes beyond grammar and vocabulary, something that explains how language connects us to people, culture, and identity. Our topic is social linguistic perspectives to be presented by Kapangpangan, Guiñares, Zalda, Parañas, Macalnas, and Sangiloran. Can we please move to the next slide? Let's start with this quote. Language and literacy learning involves socialization through linguistic and social interaction. Now, think about that for a second. We don't just learn a language, we live it. We learn it by using it, by talking, listening, joking, and expressing who we are. Next slide. In the earlier theories of language learning, the focus was only on the individual. The environment was just seen as a source of input, like a textbook or a tape recorder feeding you words to memorize. But let's be honest. Have you ever become fluent in a language just by reading or memorizing? Po- mm. That's why in recent years, scholars began to look at a social context, how communication shapes learning. Language isn't only about rules and pronunciation, it's about connection. Next slide. So now let's make that real. Imagine a Filipino student learning Korean. If she studies only through books, she'll understand grammar, but she might still sound robotic. Now, imagine her talking with Korean classmates, laughing with them, learning slang, even watching K-dramas together. She's not just learning words anymore. She's learning culture, tone, and emotion. That social linguistic learning is equals to language through real human experience, according to the three arrows there in the slide. So next slide. So no, social linguistics is defined as a study of language in use, a diverse and evolving discipline. So no, the perspective has been shaped by scholars like Holmes 2008, Mestri et al. 2009, Ward Ho 2010, and Meyerhoff 2011. They all remind us that language is socially driven. It changes depending on where we are and who we're with. Let's test that. How do you greet your teacher? It could be a form of smile. It could be a form of in good morning, ma'am, right? But how about your best friend? Huy, musta? Or bro, what's up? That social linguistic variability, our language shifts with our audience, our purpose, or our setting. Next slide. Social linguistics focus of this chapter. First is the social linguistically driven variability in LTUs. Second, language socialization, communities of practice and situated language to learning, L2 learning, agency, and reconstruction of identity. And we also tackle about the affect, emotion, and investment in L2 learning. Next slide. So no, now let's connect this to a related field, which is the conversation analysis or CA. This idea came from sociology led by Skegloff 2001. CA looks at how people organize talk, how we take turns, respond, and interrupt politely or show agreement. When applied to second language learning, it becomes CA for SLA, Conversation Analysis for Second Language Acquisition. This helps us see how learners build social competence, not just linguistic knowledge. For example, when someone says, "Excuse me," before interrupting, or "That's amazing," to show support, they're demonstrating social awareness. That's a real communication, respectful, meaningful, and alive. So to wrap up my part, no, The social linguistic perspective reminds us that language learning is not a classroom task, it's a social journey. We don't just memorize, we connect. We don't just speak, we build relationships. Language is more than words, it's a bridge between people, cultures, and identities. And that's the beauty of learning a language means learning how to live, feel, and belong within a community. Thank you, and that ends my part of the report. Now, to continue our discussion and dive deeper into the next concept, let's give our very attention to Miss Laika Guiñares.
So, good day everyone. Before I start, may I know if am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the response. So now let us discuss the 9.2, which is the social linguistically driven variability and second language use. So the 9.2.1, we will going to introduce what is second language variability. So when we say L2 variability, it refers to the phenomenon where learners of second language or L2 produces different forms of language item at the same time during their learning process. This means no that instead of using one fixed form of a word or sentence structure, learners may use several versions inconsistently over a period of time. So, for example, SCOMA 1978 found that an English learner used two forms of negation, the no and don't. So, it is simultaneous for over 40 weeks. That's why this shows variability in language use. And also, Romain 2003 explains the L2 variability as arising from both internal and external causes. So when we say internal causes or linguistic or developmental, these relate to the learners developing linguistic competence and the cognitive processes involved in language acquisition. So when we say in external causes, on the other hand, it involves social linguistic factors like gender, social class, age, or how formal or informal the situation is, which can affect how language is used in a context. And also, Elise 2008 categorized the L2 variability into two types, the vertical variability and horizontal variability. So when we say vertical variability, no, this is a change and development of language use over time as learners gain more knowledge and proficiency in L2. When we say horizontal variability, on the other hand, this is the variation at a single point in time. And with this, learners might use different forms in the same context due to psychological and social linguistic reason. And also take note that some variability is considered free variation, meaning to say learners use different forms randomly without clear rules. So this variability often happens when different forms express the same meaning or intention. Did you all get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Yes
you.
po.
So next slide please. So now let us discuss the systematic variation. So when we say systematic variation, this is more organized and influenced by patterns related to internal linguistic or external social factors. So when we say internal or linguistic variation, it depends on how the language context such as grammar, rules, which can be affected by syntax or sound around the world. For example, in English, the plural S sound changes depending on the word ending. Well, when we say external variation naman, it reflects the social influences like gender or context formality. For example, a learner might use formal language in class but informal language at home. So it shows the external social variability. So in summary, L2 variability is a natural and essential part of second language acquisition because It reflects learners' exploration and adaptation to linguistic and social demands. So, next slide, please. Now, let us discuss naman the 9.2.2 quantifying L2 variability. So, the topic of quantifying L2 variability involves using quantitative methods from sociolinguistic to analyze how and why language learners use different forms or variants. So, this approach no, was pioneered by William Labov in 1970s, who studied variable language features and connected them to social and linguistic factors in a community. So Labov developed systematic ways to collect the language data and examine how certain language features vary depending on social factors like class, sa gender, or ethnicity, as well as sa linguistic context. So, for example, one famous study looked at the glottal stop versus the T sound in British English pronunciation. So the glottal stop is often socially marked as lazy speech in some British accents where the T in a word like butter is replaced by a glottal stop. So Labovno used statistical methods and socio-linguistic interviews to uncover patterns of language variation and change. So to analyze this linguistic variation, sociolinguistic sociolinguistic use statistical tools like varbrol or variable rules which is based on logistic regression. So this method no helps calculate the probability that a certain form of variant will appear depending on a factor such as social background and the linguistic contents of the speaker. So, according to Bailey 1996 norm, he also applied the verbal method to Chinese learners of English. So the study examined how deletion of sound like P and D depend on grammatical category. So this showed no that L2 learners exhibit a combination of development variability or how language develop in a learner. It also discusses the social linguistic variation or how social factors influence language use. So again, no, L2 learners do not just randomly produce different forms. Their language variability reflects on interaction between developmental factors and social linguistic factors. Again, when we say developmental factors, these are the stages in language learning process where learners experiment with different forms. And when we say social linguistic factors, this refers to social identities, group membership, or communication situation that influence language choices. So, did you all get it po?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for the response. Next slide po, please. So now let us discuss the 9.2.3, the acquisition of social-linguistic variation in interlanguage. So the acquisition of social-linguistic variation in L2 interlanguage happens gradually and depends on their exposure and immersion in the target language community. So they say no that early learners usually show limited social-linguistic variation, but advanced learners who spend more time with native speaking environment demonstrate more native like use of social linguistic variants. So, learners begin to understand the use of different language forms according to social context such as formality, the gender, and social class. For example, in a Canadian French immersion, learners differentiate between three social linguistic variants in spoken language. First is the vernacular, second is mildly marked, and third is the formal. When we say vernacular, no, this form does not follow the rules of standard French and is linked with lower social class speakers. So they say that it is often viewed as less prestigious. When we say mildly marked naman, also This is also a non-standard, but neither tied to social class or viewed as less prestigious. And when we say formal, this is the standard French used in careful speech and writing, and it is usually associated with the upper class, upper social class. So learners generally avoid the vernacular forms but accept and use mildly marked forms. So they also show awareness of the social meaning behind each variant. They also say that longer immersion in the target language community leads to more native like social linguistic behavior, no? Such as, for example, studies on French negation particles such as NE or net deletion shows advanced learner speech becoming to closer native speakers after extended immersion. So another example, no? Ay, next slide po, please. So another example, no, is the Chinese learners and particle DE. So Lee 2010 studied Chinese L2 learners use the particle DE, and these learners tend to overuse D compared to native speakers. However, the learners also systematically vary its use according to the different contexts and their social and or language background. So learners in this classroom setting often prefer formal variants because probably they are influenced by the teacher's input that tends to emphasize standards, which is the formal language. Did you all get it po?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for the response. So that's all po for my part. The next topic will be discussed po by the next reporter. Thank you.
So, good morning everyone. So, I am Janelle I. Pareñas. So, now I'm going to discuss the second language socialization. So, when we say second language socialization, is refer to the process through which individuals learn a second language by engaging a social uh, interaction and adapting to cultural norms within communities that use the target language. So this framework emphasizes how learners acquire linguistic competence while being socialized into new cultural practices and identities. So second language is a process of acquiring a second language while adapting the cultural norms, practices, and identities of the communities. So that use of the language, unlike traditional language learning models, focus on a grammar and vocabulary, emphasizes social interaction and cultural immersion as drivers of linguistic and cognitive development. So it is a rooted a social linguistic. It examines how language and society influence each other. It says that learning a language isn't just about grammar and vocabulary. It's all about understanding the social and cultural context in which the language is used. So we have the key influences, we have the anthropological linguistic, consider how language shape and reflects culture. And also we have the systematic functional linguistic, focuses on how language function in social context to make meaning. And also the social cultural theory emphasizes the role of social interaction and cultural tools in learning. So second language socialization is that it is emphasizes that learning a new language involves becoming a member of a new community and learning to use language in culturally appropriate ways. So did you get at everyone what is the meaning of the second language socialization? Okay, thank
Yes,
you for the
ma'am.
response. Next is the developmental links between first language and culture. So when we say developmental links between first language and culture, it is emphasizes the language acquisition is a deeply social and cultural process. Children don't children don't just learn words, grammar in isolation. They learn how to use language culturally appropriate ways through interaction with caregivers and members of their community. So this process shapes their grammatical development and reflect the values, belief, and practices of their culture. Understanding these links is crucial for educators, linguistic and anyone interested in how language and culture interest to shape human development. So the developmental links between first language and cultural is underscored the importance of viewing language is a dynamic and multifaceted phenomenon that is deeply embedded in the social cultural context. Recognizing these links can lead more effective approach to the language education to cross the cultural communication and social understanding. So language and culture are deeply connected. So learning a language involves a learning the culture it comes from. How we learning grammar is influenced by social interaction and cultural context, and also different cultural practices in raising children affect how they develop language skills. So did you get it? Are we in the same page, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you sa response. Next is the communities. Ay, next is the language socialization in the L2 classroom. So when we say language socialization and second language, so na the classroom is valuable concept for the researcher and teachers alike. It is emphasizes the importance of cultural context and social interaction language learning. So this approach move beyond the traditional method that focus on a grammar and vocabulary. So recognizing the language acquisition is deeply intertwined with cultural norms and values. And the L2 classroom teacher often scaffold learning and praise the students collectively reflecting the cultural norms and value of the success. So one of the example is the study of the Fusi and the Cordis girl in a Swedish reception class which thus showed her development from a silent child to a competent classroom participant. So now this highlights how language a socialization can facilitate language learning by integrating students into the classroom community. So teacher in the L2 classroom often the scaffold learning externally the praise students collective reflecting a cultural norm that values group of a success. So classroom support this Kate's research followed by Fusi, a 7 years old Kurdish girl in a Swedish reception class, as he developed from a silent child to a competent classroom participant. So Fusi used physical action like holding up, drawing, and walking to the teachers to gain attention before developing more complex linguistics skills. So not to conclude, language socialization offer a value framework for understanding L2 learning by emphasizing the cultural motivation behind language, behavior, and importance of social interaction in the classrooms. So that's all. So are we in the uh, any clarification, violent reaction?
None, ma'am.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you. That's all for my part.
So hello everyone, I am Jesse Dicatoria Macalnas Jr., your reporter for this topic. So now we are going to tackle. So before we start um our topic, am I audible, everyone?
Yes po.
Yes.
Thank you for your response, guys. So, okay, let's start. Communities of practice and situated second language learning. Sociologists have traditionally studied the social roles of language and structuring the identities of individuals and culture of entire communities and societies. In the particular, ethnographers of communication have studied the characteristics of speech events which have patterning and significance of members of particular speech communities. So, next po. So, empirical studies of L2 learning as a situated social practice. The ideas of studied learning which takes place through participation in the activities of one or more communities of practice have been widely adopted by L2. Socializing researchers and other ethnographers of L2 communications. Uh, one obvious application of one obvious application is to view the classroom as a COF COF piece perspective adopted by S. Tamley in 2008. In the study discussed above, Tuhei took the same view of classroom life in her ethnographic study of group of 6 young learners in 2000 to 2001. Over a 3 years period, the study tracked the children's developing identities and pattern of participation as they progress from kindergarten through second grade of elementary school. So based on the research that I they have read, so first I am going to clarify the the my topic. So my topic is situated learning and second language acquisition. Situated learning is closely linked with COPs, emphasizes that learning occurs most effectively when it is embedded in authentic social and cultural contexts. This means that language learning is not just about acquiring grammatical rules or vocabulary, but also about understanding how language is used in real life situations and within specific communities. Next slide, please. Including access to resources. For example, a Polish L1 child named Julie, who had come to school speaking little English, successfully graduated over time from her ESL status and established herself as an average mainstream student. Another another Punjabi L1 child named Surjit was position was positioned differently as a struggling student who would need uh, counting ESL support. Disputes were common among the children in the class and Tuhei 2001. Next slide, please. Next is in the Eurocentric academic culture of this multilingual and multi-ethnic school, speech is equated with the participation in the class activities and engagement in the academic curriculum, while silence is equated with an absence of participation and lack of motivation with regard to school activities. The Hong Kong born student cons- constitute around one third of whole student body and and cons- con- Cantonese was commonly heard spoken around the school alongside English. However, the Hong Kong-born students spoke very little during any type of classrooms activities, despite their teachers' insistence of forming mixed student group from regular English only to discussion in the classroom. Next slide, please. I think that's all my discussion. I hope you understand about my topic. That's all.
So next slide, please. Good day, everyone. I am Gideon Mar A. Sangiloran, and I am the fifth reporter. So I am Am I audible?
Yes po, sir.
So thank you. So today we will be talking about the second language learning agency and identity reconstruction. So before we begin, let me ask you, how many of you have tried learning another language besides your mother tongue? So alright, tama no? You might notice that when we learn another language, it doesn't just help us communicate. It also changes how we see ourselves and how others see us. And that's what we call identity reconstruction. So let's proceed on the first identity, the concept of social identity. So social identity is basically how we define ourselves in connection to our social groups, like by our language, culture, gender, or nationality. Traditionally, people thought identity was fixed, but now we know it's flexible and constantly shaped through interaction. And according to Bonnie Norton 2000, language gives people the right to speak, meaning it gives access to social power, relationships, and opportunities. So the second one is adult transformation of identity. So let's move to adults. So Norton studied immigrant women learning English. For example, Martina, a Czech immigrant, was initially silent and powerless at work, but as her English improved, she started speaking up, regaining confidence and authority. So we can see that the learning a second language doesn't just help with communication. It can empower people and help them rebuild their identity in a new country. So next slide please. So the third one is adolescents L2 identity. Uh, let's talk about naman sa mga teenagers. So Mackay and Wong, 1996, studied Chinese immigrant students in the US. So these students faced a conflict, or should I act Chinese or American? They were often stereotyped based on race or academic ability. So however, through language learning, they negotiated their identities, choosing how to present themselves in school and society. So, what do you think? Is it possible to keep both identities at once, or do you need to choose one? So, exactly. L2 learning helps them balance both sides of who they are. So, did you get it, guys? Did you all get it?
Yes, sir.
So, let's proceed. So, the fourth one is online language learning. So, now in the modern age, learning doesn't just happen in classroom. So according to Lam's 2004 study involved two Chinese girls, Yu Qing and Chu Ying, who were too shy to speak English in school. But through an online English Cantonese chat room, they became more confident. So they used code switching, mixing English and Cantonese to express themselves freely. This helped them form a transnational identity, meaning they weren't just Chinese or American, but a mix of both. So who among you uses English more online, like in chats, so games or social medias? That's a form of identity reconstruction too. We create an we create a different online self using language. So next, please. Next slide, please. So the fifth one is life histories of L2 learners. So Pavlenko says language evolves two stages: losses and gains and reconstruction. So losing one's first language identity or inner voice. So in gains reconstruction, it builds a new sense of self, often with more confidence. For many women, learning English gave them empowerment. It became a language of freedom and independence. So, can learning English change the way you think or ulit. Can learning English change the way you think or express yourself? So yes, it often does because language and thought are deeply connected. Next slide. So to summarize, learning a second language is more than just learning grammar or vocabulary. It is a journey of self-transformation. It is a learning it is a journey of self-transformation. Through it, we gain confidence, new relationships, and even a new way of seeing the world. So as the future teachers, or as a learners ourselves, let's remember every language we learn adds a new layer to our identity. And that's all. Thank you. So the next reporter will be Vincent Joe Kapampangan.
So let's move to the next slide, no? So it is entitled 9.6 Affect, Emotion, and Investment in Second Language Learning. Supposedly, no, Zelda will be reporting this, but due to the emergency, no, I will take over. So before I proceed to this, no, I'll be discussing affect, emotion, and investment in second language learning. So in second language learning of SLL, researchers have long tried to understand why some learners succeed while others fail. One of the major factors they focus on is motivation. Traditionally, motivation was viewed as something fixed. Either a learner has it or doesn't. However, modern perspectives see motivation as something dynamic, flexible, and negotiable. This means that a person's motivation to learn a language can change depending on their emotions, their surroundings, and the people they interact with. Learners don't exist in isolation. They learn language in social settings. According to this slide, their emotions and attitudes toward the target language or L2 are shaped by what we call social context. Don't forget social context. For example, a learner may feel confident when talking with supportive people, but anxious or frustrated when facing judgment or misunderstanding. These emotional experiences, whether positive or negative, have a strong influence on how effectively a person learns. Do you agree that emotional experiences, whether positive or negative, have a strong influence on us, on how a person learns? Yes, very good.
Yes.
No, it affects. So next slide, no? For instance, feelings like frustration, anger, or anxiety can make a learner withdraw or hesitate to communicate, while feelings of confidence or pride can encourage active participation. This emotional side of learning is often invisible, right? Yet it plays a powerful role in shaping how motivated and successful a learner can be. So example of here is Berta's story from Bremer et al. 1996. No? Berta was migrant learner who needed to use her second language in very important and personal situations, such as talking with doctors. Because of this, she often felt angry and frustrated when she couldn't express herself clearly or when people failed to understand her. Her story shows that language learning isn't just a mental activity, right? What can you suggest? It is also emotional and human. So now have we observed on the surroundings this 21st century that language, when we can express our true feelings in another language, it can lead to feelings of helplessness and even after affect our motivation to continue learning. So no, as you observe, as you heard in Berta's case, her emotions sometimes interfered with her learning process, but at the same time, they reflected how deeply language is connected to her sense of identity. Now, next slide. So, no, the concept of investment, let's move on to this by Norton and McKinney. So, while motivation explains what pushes a person to learn, investment focuses on what learners hope to gain. Through learning and the language, it refers to the social and historical relationship between the learner and the target language. No? So when learners invest in learning a new language, they are not only investing in communication skills, they are also investing in their future identity, their status in society, and the communities they want to belong to. For example, no, some students choose to learn English or French, not only because they find it interesting, but because it gives them access to better opportunities, respect, and belonging. In this sense, language learning becomes connected to power, opportunity, and identity. Are we on the same ship, everyone? Have you understand my explanation? Is it clear? All right. Thank you for
Yes.
your response. So next slide. No, there are various studies here, and we only and let's start with Norton. Uh, Women learning English link their effort to developing new social identities. Haller, 2006, French to medium students in Toronto had different motivations. No, it is observable right now because we have different motivators too that can affect our language acquisition. According to McKay and Wong, Chinese teens in Canada learn English to become good students or popular students. So also, African Francophone students saw French and English as colonial language. It means it is innate in them, but still valued them for economic reasons. White students learn French for family or cultural identity, not necessarily for practical use. So, next slide. So, let's move on to the 9.7 evaluation, the scope and achievements of social linguistic inquiry. So, there are two main approaches in studying second language learning through linguistics. So, let's start with quantitative approach. When we say quantitative approach, this one focuses on numbers and patterns. It studies language variation like how people change their words or grammar. Second, quantitative approach, unlike numbers no from the word qualitative approach, unlike numbers no from the quantitative approach, qualitative approach focuses on how language learning happens through social interaction. So this approach highlights that learners' identity, motivation, and community involvement are key parts of language learning. However, Watson, Gigio, and Nielsen pointed out most studies focus more on social interaction and less on the actual linguistic or cognitive processes. Do you all get it? All right, so next slide. So this part, on the second slide, we talk about the variationist approach, which focuses on small language differences like pronunciation, grammar, or word choice to show how experience and environment shape the way we talk. Also, no, it emphasizes the ethnography, which means studying real life communication to understand how tone, gestures, and context affect meaning. For example, the saber, you're okay can sound caring, sarcastic, or annoyed, depending on the tone, facial expression. So, ethnographic studies also help us see how learners use language appropriately in the real situations. Next slide. However, researchers also noticed that in second language learning, there's less focus on grammar. That's the main thought of this slide. Because the emphasis is on practical use and social meaning. What's more, the environment and community play a huge role. For example, learners who join clubs, groups, or communities where the language is spoken naturally improve faster. But when people are excluded or have fewer opportunities to participate, their learning slows down. So this reminds us that language learning is social and power dynamics like confidence, access, or discrimination can affect how people learn. So next slide. So no, to conclude, 9.7.3 social linguistic accounts of the L2 learner. So according to the statements, no, learning language is more than memorizing words or grammar. It's a journey. It's a journey that shapes who we are, how we see the world, and how we connect with others. Think about it. Every conversation, every mistake, every moment we try to express ourselves in another language change us. Our identity evolves, our confidence grows, and our place in the social world becomes clearer. Learners are not passive. They are active creators of meaning, navigating culture, emotion, and society through language. Language learning is not just academic, it's emotional, social, and deeply human. It's about belonging, empowerment, and self discovery. And the more we invest ourselves, our heart, mind, and identity, the more the language comes alive and the more we discover ourselves in it. No? As Claire Cramsch beautifully said, language is the principal means whereby we conduct our social lives. When it is used in context of communication, it is bound up with culture in multiple ways. So remember, no, everyone, itatak nyo to sa kokote nyo. So, to learn a language is not just to speak it. It is to live it, to feel it, and to become a new version of yourself in the world. And that concludes the reporting of social linguistic perspectives. Thank you, everyone. I hope you learned something very important. That's all. Thank you.